Well, one of the biggest stock market stories this morning is Meta Platforms. This is the parent company of Facebook. For the last year, in the eyes of investors, this company could do very little wrong. And yet here we are this morning looking at a dramatic sell-off of more than 13%. This comes after the company's latest quarterly results. The key issues analysts seem concerned about are, on the one hand, you have a sales outlook that was below some expectations. But in addition, the company is continuing to focus on spending. In this case, higher spending for the year tied to AI. It seems to cut into the cost discipline story that had been building for Meta, which ultimately was rewarded by investors. These numbers coming ahead of other players, Alphabet and Microsoft, set to report quarterly results later today. Let's get more on the Meta story now from Debra Aho Williamson. She is chief analyst at Sonata Insights. Debra, great to have you back with us. What's your take on what is bothering the market today?
Yeah. So, I've had some time to think about it since yesterday, and I think there are two things going on. First of all, I am wondering if perhaps investors are concerned that this is another metaverse. AI for Meta is going to be a sinkhole of spending, just like we've seen quarter after quarter for Reality Labs, which is where most of the metaverse investments have taken place. So I think that's something that's kind of rattling around in investors' minds. Another thing that I think is probably a concern is that when it comes to AI, and remember, basically every company in the world is talking about AI right now, including all of the major tech companies and some very, very well-funded startups, companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Mistral out of France. There's a lot of competition in AI. And in coming up with the right models, the best infrastructure, the most accurate, generative AI, and that nobody has won that battle yet. Mark Zuckerberg came out fighting on the call yesterday. He talked about how good Llama 3 was. He talked about how important it was going to be. And he talked about his goals for making Meta and Llama 3 the most important AI company in the world. But that hasn't been decided yet. And I think that's something else that has investors concerned. Nobody knows if Meta is going to win in this game.
And do you think then at the end of the day, the motivation for Mark Zuckerberg to U-turn, I don't want to be too dramatic here, but people talked about how Meta had found religion. Like the last quarter after they reported their strong results, the stock popped 20%. They're paying a dividend now. They're buying back stock. All those things that Wall Street likes to hear. That was just a quarter ago. And now, to your earlier point, people are worried about whether we're going to be talking about uncertain metaverse spending. In this case, uncertain spending around AI. Is this the competitive reality that he's part of a Silicon Valley environment where everybody wants to win and he's willing to focus more on that versus appeasing analysts for a quarter's worth of results?
Well, he did make some reference to that on the call, right? I mean, he did say some things about how in cycles like this in the past where Meta has announced that there would be extended spending. He mentioned Reels, for example. There's been stock volatility, he said. So he's kind of pre-warning the market that, oh yeah, this is happening. So I kind of took that to be a little bit of kind of the classic Mark Zuckerberg of the past, where and he's a smart guy. Obviously, he has amazing conviction and amazing foresight. I mean, to have built Meta into what it is, you have to give him credit for that. But again, I mean, the metaverse investments have not really panned out as well as they thought. And now they're talking about spending lots of money on AI. The thing that I think is really interesting and perhaps different and could give Meta an advantage when it comes to AI is that Meta is very focused on the consumer side. So basically coming up with, I mean, it's a focus on a lot of areas of AI, but one of the areas where I think it has an advantage is in the consumer side, showing AI, getting its users used to generative AI features, image creation, queries, interacting with avatars, agents, AI agents. agents. He talked about that on the call as well. You have to remember that Meta is 98% advertising supported business. And there is a huge opportunity, I believe, going forward in ads in AI experiences. Now, that's not going to come today. It's not going to come tomorrow. It's probably not going to even come in 2024. We're probably looking at 2025 before we see Meta start inserting advertising in these AI experiences. But you've got to believe that this company that has built this enormous advertising business over time is going to start to roll advertising into these AI experiences and start to make money from them. So that's something that I think Meta has as an advantage that perhaps its competitors don't necessarily.
You know, one thing we didn't hear too much about on the conference call is TikTok, but TikTok is all over the headlines right now, given what we saw from the president yesterday, and we'll find out what happens in terms of the ownership structure. But TikTok has certainly given Meta a run for its money in terms of, you know, an engaging platform that's got a lot of eyeballs right now. One could argue that behind the scenes, Meta's been doing plenty of lobbying in Washington. What do you think about the threat for their business that comes from the fact that most people these days talk a lot more about TikTok than they do about Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, well, you know, first of all, there was a question on the call yesterday about TikTok, and the executives shut it down. They didn't want to talk at all. They basically said, you know, it's too early for us to say anything. Obviously, if we're speculating here, because we don't know what is going to happen to TikTok, they have 9 months or more to figure out whether they're going to have a new owner or whether they will be facing a ban in the United States. So a lot can happen between now and then. What I can say, though, is that Instagram, its competitor Reels, has been performing better. They did not talk too much about Reels and the performance of Reels like they have in the past on the calls. So we don't have a lot of new color in terms of revenue going into Reels. But anecdotally, we do hear that Reels is getting more advertising attention. And I feel that if there is uncertainty about TikTok that starts to play out over the next couple of months, that there could be advertisers that start to look more seriously at Reels, or perhaps YouTube Shorts, the other competitor in this market. So a lot of uncertainty for TikTok. It's still right now, still very important, still very relevant. It's still got a strong and growing user base. But I do think that headwind of uncertainty over TikTok could play to Meta's advantage over time when it comes to advertising revenue.